Okay, first of all, Charlie, how did the idea for Hummingbird Review come about? Because I know you're just a recent convert to poetry yourself.
Well, poetry and the Hummingbird Review itself. It started 5 years ago. I met Luis Alberto Urrea in Tucson. He was speaking, he was a lecturer one night. And I bought his book. Oh, I have a copy of it here. Nobody's Son. And I read the first 9 lines of this book and I was hooked. I went back to the table and bought all of his books, and I walked over to Luis. Will you sign these for? He said, "Hey, look at my new best friend," and he signed all the books for me. We've been friends ever since. About a year ago, he started this blog. It's an invitation-only blog for writers, and I'm one of the writers. There were about up to 100 of us at one time. And he just mentioned haphazardly one night, "I'd like to have something to do with a literary journal." So 5 or 6 of us from this blog got together, and next thing you know, we have the first issue of the Hummingbird Review. And that's how it came about.
Well, you have a really interesting personal story about how you got involved with poetry.
Poetry itself, that's another whole story. I attended the Tucson Writers Conference 2 years ago, and the speaker was Taylor Mali. And I didn't even want to go to hear him. He was a guest. He was the speaker at dinner. I said, "No, I don't want to go. I don't want to hear anything about poetry." I had nothing to do with poetry except what you had to read in college. I went to this session, and he floored me. Taylor is unbelievable. I was rolling on the floor with tears in my eyes. I got up from that session. I've been writing poetry every day since for 2 years, and I even published my own book within a year because I couldn't help myself, and I still write poetry on a regular basis. So, yeah, Taylor Mali, he's the best. He's the best there is.
One of the things that, for me personally, is intriguing about the Hummingbird Review is your emphasis on multicultural writing and multicultural issues. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it sort of all happened by accident, but it's a great accident. Obviously, it starts with Luis, who was born of a father who was Mexican. I think he was a driver for the president of Mexico, and his mother was like a New England socialite. The combination of the two gave us a multicultural beginning just with Luis alone. But his connections throughout his writing world ended up with Saeed Lehoud. Saeed is Moroccan, and he wrote a story for us recently about the culture of the Berbers. We call them Berbers. They call themselves Amazons. And so it just happened, we start talking to these people, and the word spread around, and next thing you know, we have people from all, we had Dean Nelson from down there at Point Loma, Nazarene. He was going down to Honduras to visit his son who's teaching in Honduras. But what is he teaching? He's teaching the Diary of Anne Frank to college students, to high school students, excuse me. And I thought that was fascinating, and he wrote a dispatch from Honduras for us. So the next thing you know, we have Morocco, we have Honduras, we have Mexico, Guatemala. We have people writing all over the world for us now.
And the other thing that's I find really fascinating about the anthology is the wide sweep of different forms of writing. We've had interviews, poetry, essays, and so forth. But one of the things in the last issue that was particularly striking was the father-son letters between Michael Shreve, who is the drummer for Santana at Woodstock, and then his son, who is a songwriter himself.
We're getting a lot of response on that. The true father and son, and the love just shows through for the writing. They're literal letters that we took literally from them and printed them verbatim as they were written a year ago on the anniversary, the 40th anniversary of Woodstock. Great piece.
And then another thing about the anthology that's rather unusual is that there's fewer and fewer places for new young poets to find an audience outside of, say, their college literary journal or something. But you've decided with Hummingbird Review to couple famous authors, and Michael Blake, who wrote Dances with Wolves, for example, with a kid like Jacob Pruitt, who's a sophomore at Sonoma State and had a really nice body of poetry. So what is the premise behind coupling experienced, well-known literary figures with new, very good but previously unpublished authors, poets?
It basically started with what we called Cabin 20, which was this invitation-only blog where we had all these writers, most of whom had never been published at all. So that was the basis. As a matter of fact, the first 2 issues of the Hummingbird Review, we have a section that's just aside for the Cabin 20 writers. But on the other hand, we were able to reach out to people that I know, and people that, of course, that you know, and people that Luis knows. Next thing you know, we have world-class writers submitting to us. We have yet to have to go out to the public for general submissions. I don't think we can handle it. We have enough coming in, and it's amazing how this thing gets stonewalled. But you know what warms my heart the most? The fact that we're online is one thing, but we have this ink on paper, and it's generating a great deal of excitement for writers to see their name in print. That's what it's all about for writers, isn't it?
Yeah, even in this digital crazy publishing world, it's all about the printed page.
You have to be there. You have to be digital. We have to have the viral marketing. We have to have books online. We have to have e-books. But there's still something about picking up and holding your own book in your hand. It's a wonderful feeling.
So the second issue is now out and available for sale nationally, bookstores nationwide ordering. And then
Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Open Books Press, our publisher, and other places soon.
And when's the next issue going to come out?
It should be out by February again. We launched the first issue at the Writers Conference San Diego, the SoCal Writers Conference right here in February, and the next issue will probably come out next February. So that's what we're hoping. Get the press